You've been told to follow your gut, to build what you believe in, to trust your vision. And maybe you've also heard this quote: people don't know what they want until you show it to them. That's from Steve Jobs. And it's been used to justify ignoring feedback, skipping research, and launching offers without ever talking to a real human being. But here's the truth. The story you've been told about Steve Jobs, it's a myth. Just like the idea that success comes from locking yourself in a room and magically producing genius. Today, I'm going to show you why both Steve Jobs and alternative rock band Weezer became legends, not because they ignored people, but because they knew how to listen to them. And more importantly, I'll show you how to do the same thing in your business using YouTube, especially if you're a coach, a course creator, or a purpose-driven entrepreneur. So stick with me until the end. On this episode, you'll walk away with 3 things. 1, a new model for creating content that actually gives you market research while building trust with your audience. A step-by-step YouTube strategy that turns long-form videos into leads and shorts into client-generating insights. And number 3, a simple mindset shift that helps you stop guessing what your audience wants and start co-creating offers that sell out. Welcome to Talk Fluence, where music meets marketing. I am Dr. Z, your host and producer of this show. In every episode, we uncover what hit songs and iconic artists can teach us about storytelling, audience psychology, and standing out online. If you're building a YouTube or social media brand, this is Talk Fluence, your creative edge. Let's get into it. Let's start with a band most business podcasts never talk about, Weezer. In the early 90s, they were everything a mainstream band wasn't. They weren't edgy like Nirvana. They weren't sexy like Aerosmith. They were just weird. Rivers Cuomo, the lead singer, was a shy, awkward, highly intellectual guy. He read classical literature, studied Japanese, and lived in the dorm rooms at Harvard in a tiny dorm room, all while the band was blowing up. In fact, students in his class would sit right next to him, and never realize there is a lead singer of Weezer. And the songs, they weren't polished love ballads or big stadium anthems. They were about sweaters, rejection, teenage pain, songs like Buddy Holly. Songs like Buddy Holly and Say It Ain't So weren't designed to dominate the charts. They were designed to connect with real people feeling awkward in their own skin. And that's what happened. Weezer found their audience not by aiming for popularity, but by doubling down on authenticity. But let's pause here, because if you're a business owner, a coach, or a course creator, or really anyone trying to grow visibility online, you've probably heard this advice before. Just be yourself. Lean into the quirks. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And you might be thinking, that's nice in theory, but will being too different cost me leads? What if the audience doesn't get me? What if I come off as unpolished or too niche? Well, let's take a deeper look at what Weezer really did and how it applies to you. They didn't just show up weird and hope people accepted them. They created a feedback loop. They didn't run market research studies or hire a branding consultant. Instead, they showed up consistently and paid close attention to how their fans were reacting. They joined online message boards. Yes, even back in the 90s, they read fan comments. They adapted their live performances based on audience response. And when an album flopped, like Pinkerton initially did, they listened, regrouped, and responded with a fresh direction. That wasn't gut instinct in a vacuum, it was real time emotional data, and call it qualitative feedback if you want, or audience signal tracking. It doesn't matter what you name it. The point is they were listening. This kind of feedback loop is your advantage as a small creator, especially on platforms like YouTube or Instagram, where you don't need 1 million followers. You just need 100 true fans who care. And here's where it gets interesting. Rivers Como, who is notoriously introverted, are you an introvert? Still built a process around engagement. He created a catalog of hundreds, literally hundreds of unfinished song snippets and would release them only online to gauge reaction. Yes, he did that. Basically A/B testing in song form. No expensive studio, no record label focus group, just publishing, observing, and adjusting. That's a process any coach or course creator can replicate. Let's take it out of music and into your world. Imagine this. You're a wellness coach trying to grow your following. You could spend 6 months building perfect online course, or you could post 10 short videos on YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, each tackling one pain point your audience faces. From there, you can track reactions, comments, shares, saves, and watch times. And that's not guessing, that's informed iteration. Then you can double down on what's working. And that brings us to the most overlooked lesson in the whole Weezer story. Weird didn't work because it was weird. Weird worked because it was tested and refined in front of real humans. They didn't design for their fans, they designed with them. And that's the big shift most creators miss. Too often, we treat content like a pitch, a final product, a polished sales page meant to impress. But content, especially long form content, like YouTube videos, is actually your research lab. It's where you try ideas, listen for patterns, and get smarter with every upload. You don't need a massive email list or a 6-figure launch. You need clarity on what your people respond to and the guts to publish imperfectly. Yes, imperfectly. Gather data and keep going. YouTube long videos are especially powerful here because you can test multiple value angles in one episode. See where drop off happens and adjust future scripts. Embed call to actions based on what's resonating most, and collect comments and use them to shape your next video, offer, or freebie. And guess what? Shorts and reels are like real-time micro surveys. When you get 2,000 views with only 12 likes, that's a signal. When one topic sparks comments, debates, and another gets scrolled past, that's market feedback. Weezer didn't need Google Analytics. They had a culture of creative responsiveness, and you can do the same thing today for free using social media platforms that already reward experimentation. So, if you're sitting on an idea and worrying it might be too niche, too odd, too you, take the Weezer approach. Publish anyway. Watch, adjust, and repeat. Because as we'll see later in this episode, even Steve Jobs, the poster child for you don't need to do research, was doing the exact same thing in his own way. But more on that soon. Before we go there, we'll explore with the real problem with how most entrepreneurs interpreted gut instinct and how that misunderstanding might be costing you thousands in lost leads. Stay with me. It gets even better. But for now, let's take a break and we'll come back with more on the Steve Jobs myth debunked. Let's talk about one of the most misquoted and misunderstood figures in the entire business world, Steve Jobs. You've probably heard the quote before. People don't know what they want until you show it to them. It sounds bold, visionary, even a little arrogant. And that one quote has been used by thousands of entrepreneurs, marketers, coaches, and course creators as an excuse to completely avoid talking to customers. As if research is just a crutch for people who lack genius. But here's the truth. And it's a truth that completely changes how you think about content creation, product development, and how to you use platforms like YouTube to grow your business. Steve Jobs did market research. He just did it differently. Jobs didn't run traditional surveys or focus groups. He didn't care about demographic data points, preference rankings, or user personas built in spreadsheets. What he did care about, obviously, was real people, or how real people use the products in real life. He would sit in usability labs and just watch. Watch where someone got stuck. Watch what confused them. And notice how they held the device and how they navigated menus where they hesitated. And when he saw something off, when someone fumbled, paused, or looked unsure, he would take notes and then he'd go back to the team and reiterate and iterate. That's not anti-research. That's next level research. It's called behavioral listening, a concept Louis Grenier explores beautifully in his Nudge podcast episode, which we'll put a link in the show notes. Behavioral listening is about this. Don't just ask what people think. Watch what they do. Don't obsess over opinions. Obsess over friction, over behavior, over emotion. Now let's bring this into your world. If you're a coach, course creator, or a service-based entrepreneur, YouTube gives you the perfect platform to practice behavioral listening at scale. Let's break it down. When you upload a video, whether it's 5 minutes quick, it's a 5-minute quick tip, or a 20-minute deep dive, you're putting a live experiment into the world. And here's the magic. YouTube gives you data, but not vanity data, not just likes and views. No, you get behavioral signals. You get audience retention. Where do people drop off in the video? Click-through rates. What kind of thumbnails and titles actually get people to watch? And comments. What questions are people asking? What's confusing? What's landing? YouTube also gives you suggested videos. What does YouTube associate your content with? And that's important. And playback speed and watch time are also there. Did they speed it up, pause, or rewind? These are all clues, clues about what your market wants, what they value, and what they respond to, and what they're ignoring. Let's take a real example. Suppose you're a health coach who posts 15-minute videos titled 5 Signs You're Dealing with Chronic Inflammation. You notice something fascinating. Around the 3-minute mark, your retention drops by 40%. But at 8 minutes, when you mention a natural remedy or food strategy, your watch time goes up again. That's your cue. You don't need a survey. You just learned something deeply valuable. Your audience isn't sticking around for abstract theory. They want practical action steps. So next time you rework your video, you lead with the strategy and build the theory in after. You adjust the hook. You change the title from 5 signs to 3 foods that fight inflammation fast. And what happens? Watch time goes up, comments increase, subscription rates rise, and eventually so do leads and sales. This is a jobs method, not a hunch, not a guess, but constant observation and iteration. And just like Jobs used software prototypes, you use video content. Just like Apple refined based on testing and feedback, you refine your channel and offers based on real-world audience behavior. And here's the thing most entrepreneurs miss. Your YouTube channel isn't just a way to build authority. It's a real-time behavioral lab, a place where you get to test content, messaging, language, angles, and objections. And again, as I mentioned before, for free. And the results are instant. This is what separates, I hope this works, creators from, I know this will work, entrepreneurs. So this ends part one of this series. Stay tuned for part two, where we get into gut instincts versus market signals and more. Looking forward to see you on the next round.